we've got 13 churches in and around Mount Airy that's built out of granite.
Mm-hmm.
On the tour, I will point out the largest, oldest, and smallest on the tour.
Gotcha.
Y'all ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Just like old Barney would have done it. We won't do that no more.
Oh, man.
The church right here on our left, the Presbyterian Church, built back in 1910. It's all out of granite. And the granite never changes its color. It does get dirty, it has to be cleaned, but it never changes its original color. It always stays the same. Andy Griffith, when he graduated from high school, the old building he graduated from was on that property right there. After many, many years, the old school got old, they tore it down, built a new school in another place, excuse me, and built a new municipal building right there, City Hall. Did y'all come to Mount Airy yesterday, or?
We actually got in, what was that, Saturday night.
Saturday night, okay.
Saturday night we stayed at the hotel and then we went up to Martinsville and watched the NASCAR race.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, a good friend of mine called me this morning and said he was up there yesterday.
Oh, we had a blast. I'm sure you did too.
He always does. He's been up there several times. He has been to Charlotte a couple times and saw the race down there. Let me ask y'all, have you ever heard of Donna Fargo?
Donna Fargo.
She was a country western singer back in the late 60s, 70s, and 80s.
The name is real familiar.
All right. She was born and raised right here in Mount Airy.
Mm-hmm.
Went down and got her education down to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Went to California, taught school 2 years, and made the record. I'm the happiest girl in the whole USA. The record done so well, she came back to Nashville, Tennessee, and there is a car from Arizona. How about that? How about that? The record done so well, she moved back to Nashville, Tennessee, where she had several more recordings. Had her own TV show at one time until she came down with multiple sclerosis. She worked, but not as much, not as hard as she had been working. She had several more hits and a TV show at one time. In recent years, she's had a couple of strokes. Last year, when COVID was so rampant, she and her husband both came down with COVID and she lost her husband. Sure did. Now, the 4-lane going around Mount Airy is called the Andy Griffith Parkway. The road that we're turning onto right here now has been designated and dedicated to Donna as the Donna Fargo Highway. The home that she grew up in is about 3 miles straight out in front of us. There's signs up on both ends indicating the home and it being the highway that it is. The Donna Fargo Highway. So that gives us 2 celebrities from Mount Airy that has done well. And if y'all didn't know it, you're riding in a 1962 Ford Galaxy 500.
Oh, yeah. Well, like Mount Airy's got a leg up on old Tupelo where we come from. Well, yeah, we just had Elvis.
Is that Elvis?
Just Elvis. that was his birthplace.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. All right, let me tell y'all a little bit about the quarry before we get out here. Back in 1890, a gentleman came up here from Greensboro, North Carolina, looking for land to buy. His name was Woodruff. When he got up on that big rock out here, he realized what it was. Thought to himself, if he could buy it, get it out, he could make some money. So he bought 90 acres of a rock. That rock is much, much larger than that 90 acres. He bought it, paid 60 cents an acre for it, $540. The company was started, it's been out here now for 130 years. At one time, there could have been as many as 1,000 men out here working because it was all hard, back-breaking labor. Today, there's probably not more than 60 at any given time. The reason they don't need all that labor now is because of the big heavy equipment they use to move the stone around with, the techniques in which they use to cut it and get it out, the techniques they use to process it, get it on a truck and get it delivered. A lot of stone leaves out here every week. A lot of it goes to Washington, D.C. Up there, they're changing out all the curbing to granite because the salt and chemicals doesn't have any effect on it. So they're doing it, been doing it several years. Concrete, salt will burn it, and just a short period of time. On our left here is we turn, the white building. That is the Renfro Corporation. They are the world's largest sock manufacturer.
Oh.
They make socks of all sizes. This is a corporate headquarters. They've got plants down over the country and in China. And they've got an outlet store on Main Street to where you can go in and buy your socks. Alright, we're going to be there in just a minute. The quarry starts way down here, back in the woods there, which you cannot see. We're going up on the far end where you can get a good view of it, and I can tell you a whole lot more about it after we get up there. The leaves through here last week were really pretty. They're beginning to go back the other way now.
Yeah.
Now if you look over in there, you can see some white in there.
Oh yeah.
And also right here, look out between these two buildings right here. Right out through here.
Wow.
We'll go up here where you can get a good view of all of it, and I'll tell you a whole lot more about it. Granite weighs 168.7 pounds per cubic foot. Something about so big square. Very dense and very, very heavy. Bought 90 acres of a rock, and that rock is 7 miles long north to south. It's over 1.5 miles wide. They estimate it to be 8,000 feet deep and straight down, almost 1.5 miles. They've been over here for 130 years. It's only gone down 90 feet. They tell us if they could get it all out of that 90 acres right there, it would take another 500 years.
Wow.
So it's a rock. It's a work in progress. The deeper they go, the whiter it gets. As you can see, some of it over there is white. It's wet right now. When it's dry, it's white. One time it was about the color of that old building right up there. It's more gray or more black. Now, this day and time, it's the white. It's got very, very little tiny black spots in it, very little. But anyway, they cut that with a machine. They called it a water jet cutter. They cut it down, slab it off, bring it down to the buildings down here, and they work it into whatever the customers ordered. They get it delivered on a truck. Used to, at one time, they had to drill it all to get it out. They would set a charge, like some kind of explosive in the drill marks, and they would blast it out. They had a lot of scrap back in those days. Today they don't have that much. What they do have, they bring it over to the rock crusher right over there. They crush it, run it out through these two silos right here, and they come up with all this stuff out here. They got the grit, the gravel, the sand, the dust, crusher run for driveways, highways, and what have you. But it's a work in progress. That building right there was the first office building Mr. Wood had built after he bought the rock, the quarry. And in 1924, they built a new one down on the south end. And down there, it's about 4 stories. After that, they let people move in this one and live and rent until it all went down to what you see there today. To me, it needs to be redone and maybe into a historical site for the quarry. But who am I?
Just a story.
That's right. Good right. Okay. I'm going to talk about Mr. Andy a little bit now. Andy Griffith was born in 1926 down on the south end of Mount Airy. He and his mother and daddy had absolutely nothing and no place to live until he was 9 years old. I'll tell you more about that when we get down on the south end where the home place is at. And the story starts off in Andy's early teen years. He was attending Haymore Baptist Church down on the south end of Mount Airy. One day he was up here on the north end of town and he heard the Moravian Church band playing music. Andy liked what he heard and what he seen. One day he was up here and he asked the preacher would he teach him how to play one of the brass instruments and the music. Sure enough, the preacher agreed to do it. Well, all through Andy's teen years, he attended the Moravian church and he learned to play the tuba and the music of the church. When the people at the church thought a lot of him. When he got ready to graduate from high school, the Moravian church people made him an offer to send him down to the University of North Carolina for an education. The deal was he was to come back and be the pastor at the church. Well, about halfway through his education, he decided he did not want to come back and do that. So he announced it to the church he was not coming back to be the pastor. And the people of the church cut his money off. Except for a few. And some people around town that thought a lot of Andy, they pooled their money together and sent him back down there, and he got his 4-year teaching degree. While he was there, he met his first wife, and her name was Barbara. If y'all did not know it, Andy was married 3 times. His second wife we know nothing about, except she was much, much younger than Andy, and the marriage did not last too long. Also, while he was in college, he wrote and produced a record, and the name of the record was It Was Just Football.
Oh yeah.
Barry, you heard that one?
I've heard that one.
Very entertaining and very funny. Have you heard that one?
I haven't.
Okay.
You've heard pieces of it with me.
Oh, have I? Oh,
Okay. But anyway, we'll just remind each other.
Yeah.
It's very funny and very entertaining because Andy's talking about all the good old boys out in the cow pasture beating each other up playing football.
Yep.
It done good for him. He sold the rights to that record back in the mid-50s for $10,000. In those days, that was a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
The people that bought the rights to it sold over 1 million copies. Now, 3 good things happened to Andy in this period of time. The record done good for him. He and Barbara got married, and they both graduated from college. When they graduated, they decided they would go down to Manio, the Outer Banks in North Carolina. Down there, they were doing the Lost Colony play then, and they still do it today. They were there 2 years, and they taught school. They had to have living expenses. But it came a time Andy wanted to move on. He wanted to go to New York City to see if he could get on Broadway. Sure enough, they both moved up there, settled in, and he auditioned for No Time for Sergeants. They also made a movie of that later, and both of them were very, very successful. They also auditioned Don Knotts. This was Andy and Don's first meeting. I'm gonna try to get in there. No, I better not. The schools are getting out for some reason or another. I don't know why all that's going on. Saw one of the others getting out a while ago. But anyway, they auditioned Don Knotts for that play, No Time for Sergeant. This is when Andy and Don met the very first time. Over a period of time, their relationship became like brothers. The love and respect they had for each other was good. We understand that Andy was holding Don's hand the minute he passed away.
Really?
So that was a good relationship that lasted many, many years. Tell you how Don got on the show. He saw a couple of episodes, called Andy up and said, Andy, don't you think you need a deputy on your show? Everybody agreed. What most people don't know is that if they had not hired Don, the show probably would not have lasted out the rest of that season. Andy realized from early on, from No Time for Sergeants, now his own show, that Don Knotts had what it took to do that kind of work. Andy stepped back. He gave Don the lead. And I am here to tell you folks that Don Knotts was the backbone of the show. If it had not worked out that way, we would not have the Andy Griffith Mayberry phenomenon as we have it today. So it was a good thing. It worked out good. Andy's contract for the show was for 5 years. Towards the end of the 5 years, he told Don he was going to quit. Well, Don had a family. He had to work. So he went out, found more work, signed another contract, and Andy changed his mind. He went back to show because Andy told him one thing, changed his mind, and done something else. Major changes. Went from the Andy Griffith Show to Mayberry RFD. 5 years of black and white, 3 years of color, and for sure, Don Knotts was not there. The show never ever was the same after all those changes. And there is a Moravian church that Andy attended all through his teen years, and that's where he learned to play the tuba and the trombone and the music. He didn't play the trombone much, but the tuba is where what he really learned to play. The church was built in 1925. The Moravians are German. Y'all know the name Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I guess you've heard of that.
Oh, yeah.
The Salem part, the old Salem, is where the Moravians settled back in the 1700s. A very beautiful place down there to go and visit. Tupelo, Mississippi.
Yes,
Elvis
sir.
Presley. How about that? Do they celebrate anything there for Elvis?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's the Elvis Presley Festival. It's like a week-long thing once a year.
Well, that's what we do, the same thing here for Andy. The Andy Griffith Show, sure do.
We'll have to come back down for that whenever it's going on.
I'll tell you about it in just a few minutes. Andy and Barbara could not have children of their own. They decided to try to adopt, which they did. They found a little boy and a little girl. And in real life, they were actually a brother and sister. They adopted both of them, named the little boy Andy Jr. and the little girl Dixie. Andy Jr. died at the age of 38 from alcohol and drug abuse. Dixie's still living. She lives in Colorado and she's 62 years old.
Oh wow.
Up until COVID and 5 weeks ago, Dixie and another girl, Michelle, they were here and they portrayed the fun girls from Mount Pilot as it was done on the show.
Wow.
Very entertaining, very funny. We had a good time. Don Knotts' daughter was here. She always does stand-up comedy and some speeches around town during the week of Mayberry Days. That Mayberry Days is the 3rd week in September. It's always that week. We have the Andy Griffith Mayberry Phenomenon celebration. This year we had somewhere around 45,000 people in and out of here that week. And we had the largest parade on Saturday that we'd had in 20 years. Very enjoyable. A good time is what it's all about. On our left, right down here, I told you I was going to point out the largest church. On our left, we got the First Baptist Church in Mount Airy, built in 3 time periods. This end right here, built in the 1970s. This is sanctuary right there. The middle building, built in the late 40s and early 50s, the educational building. The original church, built right down here on the end, 1907, on the Gothic style. 2 towers with a bell up in it. All stained glass windows in every one of them. Isn't that pretty?
Yeah, that's awesome.
A beautiful place, beautiful church. The street we're going on to here now is the North Main Street. These homes have to be maintained structurally as you see them and as they were built. You can want to get over here on the other side of the street. I do believe I can't get in there enough. But maybe I can. As you see them and as they were when they were built. That house right there was built by Mr. Sargent. He was the first superintendent of the Grand Quarry. The house was built in 1919 for himself and family, and they lived there until. It has a slate roof on top of it. It has copper roof on the porch right here. All that is hand chiseled granite. All the windows and doors in that house are original. If you look at the front door right there, and all the panes of glass and the panels on each side is all beveled glass panes. Every bit of it is hand chiseled rock. Yeah. Beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
We've got 2 more granite built homes right here on our right, built by the Fossett brothers back in the 1910. The basic house is the same. The only difference in them is the porches, where one's got white round posts and the other one has green square posts. If you'll look at the windows and doors, and there's panels on each side of that door and the panels above the windows and doors, they're all leaded in glass. That right there makes a beautiful picture.
Yeah, it sure does.
Built in 1910, they were in the banking business. The bank right here on the right was That's what granite looks like when it's cut, polished, and put on the side of a building. Bank building down here to our right, that is what we call granite tile. That's put on there like you would tile in the bathroom or the backsplash over your kitchen cabinets. The smallest, oldest church that we've got in the area is right over here to our left. That is the Episcopal Church, built in 1896. And that traffic go on right there and get a little better picture of it. 1896. See how the rock is just put in there and made to fit.
Oh yeah.
They could not buy the rock, so the granite quarry gave them what they call junk or trash rock. They went over, picked it up, brought it over here, and that's what they built. 1896.
Like what you're talking before about how they had a lot more throwaway stuff.
Had a lot more throwaway stuff, it sure did. 1896. On our left, right here, with the brick building, we've got the Old North State Winery. We've got 21 vineyards and wineries in Surrey County, and all of them do quite well. The Museum of Regional History right here, we've got a lot in there to see and enjoy. Mayberry Regional Museum. And this is our main street right here. Barney's Cafe right here on the left is a very good place to eat, and they are open till 4 o'clock. That building right back there that they're working on, we had our 4th of July parade on Monday morning, and that building fell out here in the street on Tuesday morning.
Oh, Lord.
Sure did. Business Center and a Chamber of Commerce, and there's a sock outlet right there. No, they put too much weight up there and it fell out. That's what it was all about. I just had that couple right y'all know on a tour early this morning. A lot of times we do tours early, and we get up here on the street later on, we'll see, see people.
Is they walking around?
See them walking around, sure do. Airy Walker on the show. They had the pharmacy and the food counter. Right here it is. That's where it all started at, right there. Andy worked in that. Walker's right there. There was a pharmacy then. He served and sold food across the counter and delivered pharmacy products up and down the street and around where people he could walk to. Airy Walker. He was sweet on her there a little bit one time. Earl Theater right here. We've got, that's where Don Knotts' daughter has been many times, done stand-up comedy and speeches. The Green Finance Building right there. That was the Grand Theater back in Andy's day. He used that name on the show several times, the Grand Theater. He sold popcorn tickets in there, people go out and see the show. Opie's Candy Store, Floyd's Barber Shop, and Snappy Lunch. That's where the world famous pork chop sandwich came from, originated from. They've been there since 1923. Next year will be 100 years.
Oh, wow.
Gotta be doing something right, ain't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotta be doing something right. Andy used this intersection right here occasionally on the show, 5 or 6 times if I'm right. Remember, Main Street and Pine. Main Street and Pine. Post office over here on the left, built all out of granite back in the 1920s.
Wow.
There's some big blocks of granite in there.
Oh, absolutely. That's awesome.
Heavy, those blocks, 186 pounds.
Yeah.
Something that big square, and then look at that right there.
And my back hurt just thinking about it.
Mine too. Yes, sir. Are y'all still working?
Yes.
Are you?
Yeah, we're just doing a vacation this week.
Okay, I'll do it, enjoy it.
Oh, yeah. It's been so the last one we had was
About a year and a half ago.
Yeah, about a year and a half ago. So we were about due for one.
About due for one, exactly right. Exactly. As we turn right here on Rockford Street, on our left will be our fallen soldier memorial. We've got names on there from the Civil War through Afghanistan and Iraq. On our left out here, we've got outstanding high school athlete, Wall of Fame. Our police department and our library right up here. The Andy Griffin Museum. Have y'all been up here?
Not yet.
Very interesting place to come. A lot in there to see, and it's all real and it's all legitimate. There's a statue right there of Andy and Opie going fishing. That's the opening of the show.
Oh.
The playhouse is the auditorium they saved from the elementary school, set right out there in that parking lot that Andy attended. Was right there. Left right down here, I mentioned a little while ago, Haymore Baptist Church. This is where Andy and his mother and daddy was going until they moved up to the Moravian Church. The only thing that was here then was this building right here, where the 4 columns is at right there. Andy occasionally would say, "Barney, go do the school crossing." You want to get him out of his hair, get him out of the office, get rid of him for a little bit. That crossing is right in front of us. Barney, go do the school crossing at Haymore and Rockford. Haymore and Rockford. Okay, here it is. We're going to sit here for a couple of minutes and talk about this a little bit and tell you what we know. You know, I told you Andy and his mother and daddy had no place to live until he was 9 years old, and they didn't. They live with family members and people around and let them come in and stay a while, and they had to go. His mother worked around a little bit, made some money. His daddy worked at the furniture factory. They saved $600, came over here and bought a boarded up building, or a shack you might call it, from the door right there over to the flag on that corner. 3 rooms straight back through there. They had no bathroom in the house. They had a privy in the backyard. Andy said one time if it was raining outside, it was raining inside. So you can only imagine what it was. Andy's mama would keep him in the kitchen by the wood cook stove in the wintertime to keep him warm. Andy lived like that for about 9 years. He went down to Carolina, Manio, New York, and California. The show's running good, making money. Knowing his mom and daddy's back here living pretty much the way they were when he left. So he decided to do something for him, which he did. He had the house remodeled from the door right there over to this right corner back here. They added on a big living room, bedroom, kitchen, bathroom, back porch, whatever it took to bring it up to the standards of the 1960s. Now his mother and daddy's got a comfortable, warm place to live. First they've ever had in their life. Andy done it for them, give it to them, and it was theirs. They lived there several years, but it came a time that Andy had nobody here to look after them, take care of them, do things for them they couldn't do for themselves. So he decided to bring them out to California where he was at. He did, and put them in a nice home out there, and that's where they lived until they passed away. He did not bring them back here to bury them. He buried both of them out there. Now the house had been sold, then it was sold again, and Mr. Blackburn over here at Hampton Inn, the man that owned that franchise, bought it, and he's got it fixed to where we can do exactly what we're doing right now. And also you can stay there like a bed and breakfast.
Oh, cool.
If you went over there today and got on the reservation list, it could take you 6 months to a year.
I was gonna say, I bet it's pretty far out.
We've been told a couple of weeks ago for the Mayberry days, that particular week in September is already booked up till 2030.
Oh, wow.
8 years out. 8 years
My
out.
goodness.
Wow. But it's the way. The Andy Griffin Mayberry phenomenon is a worldwide thing. Last year in these cars, In 1 month in summertime, we had people from all 50 states and 17 countries.
Wow.
This year it's been pretty much the same way. We've had people from Canada, the Netherlands, Germany, East Africa, Ireland, and wherever else they come from.
Wow.
The Andy Griffith Mayberry phenomenon is a big thing. It really is. There was 249 episodes of the show. There was a moral point made in every one of them.
Right.
And everybody knows that. And they're doing Bible studies now from the Andy Griffith Show and the moral point.
Oh,
They really
wow.
are. I hear they've done it at my church, and I hear people in the car, they tell me that they've done it at their church. So it's being done everywhere. Yeah. It's a good thing. If the three of us and everybody else that watch Andy Griffith Show pull out the moral points, read the Bible a little bit, we might have a better place to live. I come along in a time that you never took a switch key out. You go to bed at night, you not necessarily lock the door. You didn't lock the door, and sometimes you didn't even close it.
Right.
You go to bed, and it's safe. And it was the way. People do not come to Mount Airy necessarily looking for Andy Griffith.
Yeah.
They're looking for Mayberry. Mayberry is that safe, comfortable, happy place is what they're looking for. I come up in a time that things were kind of tough too. But Mayberry is a place, I've been here 35 years, and I don't know of any place in the world any better than this right here to live. Yeah. Very, very comfortable place to live. We don't have problems here. Once in a while, a little something flare up, but it's gone.
Yeah.
All right, y'all have any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. Andy's mother and daddy has passed away. The house has been sold. He's in California doing Matlock. They done the first 4 years of Matlock out there. Andy told the company one day if they wanted to, he was tired of flying back and forth to North Carolina, his home. Told the company that if they wanted to continue to do Matlock, they would have to bring it to North Carolina. Sure enough, they packed up and moved everything down to Wilmington. Down there, they done the last 4 years. When that was over with, Andy retired. He was getting on up in age. He moved on back down to Manio, where his wife Cindy was at, and his home. And there he lived on July the 3rd, 2012. About 7 o'clock that morning, Andy passed away, and he was 86 years old. Andy's wishes were to be buried in a particular spot on the 82-acre estate. He wanted to be buried within 4 or 5 hours of his death. He did not want to be embalmed, and he did not want the public to know it for a period of time. Oh, wow. Because he knew there could be 200,000 people to invade Manio to see something they were never going to see. Because it's all done very privately on this estate. When it was announced that he had passed away, the only people that showed up was at 6 o'clock news, and that's exactly what he wanted. Now, his legacy has been made, which is granted. Betty Lynn, Thelma Luke, born his girlfriend on the show, was invited to come to the Mayberry days in '07. She came. She was here between 3 and 4 weeks. Fell in love with Airy and the people around her. She told everybody when she got ready to leave, you know, I just might be back. Sure enough, she went back to California, took care of business, came back to Mount Airy, moved into a retirement center up on the north end of town. There she lived the last 14 years until she passed away last October at the age of 95. Oh, wow. A very humble, very lovable person. She was always at the Andy Griffith Museum on Thursdays. She would sign autographs, talk to you about you, your children, grandchildren, and family. Family is what she was all about. One thing she would not do is talk about herself. The only family she had, she never was married. The only family she ever had was the people standing right in front of her and the people standing right around her. She wanted to live out her days here, which she did, and her legacy has been made. Aunt B was born in New York. She was a Broadway actress and a movie star. Andy said in an interview that he done before he passed away that from the minute that Aunt B signed the contract to do that part in the show, nobody on earth could get along with her. She always felt like the Andy Griffith Show was beneath her calling. She always felt like she was just a cut above because she was a Broadway actress and a movie star. There was always a feud between him and her, and there were people on the show, and that's the way it was for 8 years. When she retired, she moved down to Siler City, a little town here in North Carolina. Down there, she bought a rather large estate. She did not make friends down there and didn't want friends. She lived like a hermit. She lived with a bunch of cats, 15 to 25. They called her the cat lady down there. When she died, the man that bought the estate said they had to gut it to clean it up.
Oh, wow.
Lived like a hermit. Just a nasty person. But anyway, Andy said in that interview, about 4 months before she passed away in 1989, she called him and apologized to him for all the things that she said and done to him.
Wow.
And the rest of them before that she done on the show. Hopefully she got all that straightened out with him and the good Lord before.
That's right.
Now, the cars, they were taken back at the end of each season, stripped down, repainted, put on a used car lot, sold, and never seen again. If you had them all today, they'd be worth a mint. Opie, when he threw that rock out in the water and skipped on the water, Opie didn't do that. There's a man between the camera and that water.
Really?
Because Opie wasn't capable enough to make that rock do what they wanted it to do. That building right there was built by Andy's third cousin, Mr. Wallace, back in 1927. Andy spent a lot of time around that building right there, growing up, him and his daddy. And when Goober came along, that character, they needed a building on the show, a service station. They built it, and Andy decided to call it Wally's. So Wally's Service Station is where the name came from. And folks, that is my story.
That's awesome.
That's great.
I hope y'all enjoyed it.
Oh, sure did.
Had fire out of it, yeah.
Y'all heard some things you'd never heard or
That's
seen
right.
before.
We need to get some more of the family up here.
I
There
know.
you go. Bring them on. Bring them on.
Yeah.
Now remember, always the third week in September. And I will tell you this. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is the best of the week.
Okay.
The best of the week. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Okay.
So it's a good time. So if y'all want to come over here on this side of the car, we'll take a picture.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.